The impossible ship. Dr. Vex Corlan adjusted his forearms around the control panel, his scaled fingers dancing across the holographic displays with practiced precision. As chief scientist of the Stellar Research Consortium, he had spent the last 40 years cataloging every known form of technology in their corner of the galaxy. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. The massive research vessel Enlightenment hummed quietly as it drifted through the outer reaches of the Centauri sector. Corlan's team had been investigating unusual energy readings detected by their long-range sensors. What they found defied everything they understood about physics. Dr. Corlan, called scientist Thrin Valdis from her station. The young researcher's enthusiasm often annoyed her more experienced colleagues, but Corlan appreciated her fresh perspective. The readings are getting stronger. Whatever's out there, it's not running on any power source we recognize. Through the viewing screens, they could see it now. A sleek vessel, roughly half the size of their own ship, tumbling slowly through space. Its white and blue hull showed signs of damage, with scorch marks and torn metal plating visible along one side. But the energy readings coming from within were impossible. "Scan it again," Corlan ordered, his large eyes narrowing with concentration. "Check for life signs and weapon systems." Thrin's hands moved quickly over her controls. "I'm detecting one life form inside. The being appears to be trapped in the engine section. As for weapons, I'm not reading any traditional systems, but the energy signature from their drive core is unlike anything in our database." Captain Nexor stepped forward from his position near the command chair. The military officer's expression was grim, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the bridge lights. "Dr. Corlan, I must advise caution. Unknown technology could be dangerous. We should maintain distance and call for military support." Corlan waved one of his hands dismissively. "Captain, we are scientists. This is the discovery of a lifetime. Prepare a boarding team." He turned to his research staff. "Gather portable scanners and translation equipment. We're going aboard." 30 minutes later, Corlan found himself floating through the airlock of the alien vessel. The artificial gravity systems were offline, forcing the team to navigate using magnetic boots and handholds. The interior was surprisingly spacious, with clean lines and efficient design. Everything looked functional rather than decorative, built for purpose rather than show. "The atmosphere is breathable," reported Dr. Zelith, the team's biologist. "Oxygen-nitrogen mix, similar to what most carbon-based species require. Temperature is stable." They followed the energy readings deeper into the ship, past what appeared to be living quarters and a small laboratory. The walls were covered with displays showing incomprehensible symbols and diagrams. Corlan tried to make sense of the alien mathematics, but the logic seemed chaotic and unstructured. The engine room was at the heart of the vessel, and what they found there stopped them in their tracks. A being sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by cables and components. She was humanoid, with pale skin and dark hair tied back in a practical style. Her clothing was simple and functional, stained with what appeared to be lubricants and coolants. Most remarkably, she was conscious and working. "Hello there," the alien said in perfect consortium standard, looking up from a device she was assembling. "I was wondering when someone would show up. I'm Maya Chen, chief engineer of the exploration vessel Pioneer." Corlan's translator implant struggled for a moment before providing context. This being called herself human, from a species they had never encountered. "I am Dr. Vex Corlan of the Stellar Research Consortium. Are you injured? Do you require medical assistance?" Maya smiled, an expression that somehow conveyed both warmth and exhaustion. "Just a few cuts and bruises. The real problem is my faster-than-light drive. It's completely fried." She gestured to a massive cylindrical structure that dominated the center of the room. "I've been trying to jury-rig a replacement, but it's going to take some creative thinking." Thrin stepped forward, her scanner extended. "May I examine your propulsion system? The energy readings are fascinating." "Sure, knock yourself out," Maya replied, returning to her work. "Though I should warn you, it probably won't make much sense from a theoretical standpoint. Humans tend to build things that work first, then figure out why later." Corlan watched as his young colleague began her scans. The readings were extraordinary. The human drive system was producing energy patterns that their most advanced theories said were impossible. The power output was enormous, yet somehow contained within safety parameters that defied logic. "How does this function?" Corlan asked, approaching the damaged drive core. "Our models indicate that such energy density should result in catastrophic failure." Maya looked up from her improvised repairs. "Well, the short answer is controlled quantum tunneling through folded spacetime. The long answer involves a lot of math that most people find boring. She pointed to various components around the drive. The key is redundancy. We don't try to make one perfect system. We make 6 pretty good systems that back each other up. But the risk, Dr. Zeleth interjected. If any one component fails catastrophically, then the other 5 contain the damage and keep working, Maya finished. Look, I know it seems crazy to more advanced species, but humans learned a long time ago that perfect systems fail perfectly. It's better to have messy systems that work when things go wrong. Corlin studied the human more carefully. Her casual attitude toward technology that could destroy star systems was both fascinating and terrifying. You speak of this as if failure is expected. Of course it is, Maya said, connecting 2 incompatible components with what appeared to be spare wire. Nothing works forever. The trick is making sure you can keep going when it doesn't work. She activated the makeshift connection, and several displays around the room flickered to life. There we go. Not pretty, but it'll get me home. The alien scientists watched in amazement as Maya continued her repairs. She seemed to view each problem as a puzzle to be solved rather than a catastrophe to be avoided. When a power coupling proved incompatible with her jury-rigged system, she simply manufactured an adapter using scrap metal and basic tools. This should not work, Thrin whispered to Corlin. According to our understanding of engineering principles, her modifications should cause system failure. Yet they are working, Corlin observed. Perhaps our understanding is incomplete. Maya overheard them and laughed. You know, my grandmother used to say that the universe doesn't care about our theories. It just does what it does. Our job is to pay attention and adapt. As the hours passed, Corlan found himself increasingly intrigued by human problem-solving methods. Where consortium scientists would spend months calculating optimal solutions, Maya simply tried different approaches until something worked. Her failures were learning experiences rather than defeats. Dr. Corlon, Captain Nexor's voice crackled through the communication system. We're detecting an increase in energy output from the alien vessel. Is everything secure? Maya had managed to bring her drive core online using a combination of original components and improvised replacements. The energy readings were still extraordinary, but now they were stable and controlled. Everything's fine, Captain, Corlin replied. Better than fine, actually. So, Maya said, wiping her hands on a piece of cloth. I should be able to get underway soon, but I'm curious about something. Your ship out there has some interesting technology. That quantum scanner array is pretty sophisticated. Thrin looked confused. How do you know about our scanning systems? Well, you've been using them to study my ship for the past 6 hours, Maya replied. I figured I might as well take a look at yours while you were at it. She activated a display panel showing detailed schematics of the consortium vessel. Nice work on the power distribution network. Very efficient. Corlan felt his scaled skin shift color with surprise. You analyzed our ship, while we were analyzing yours? Seemed like the polite thing to do, Maya said with another smile. Knowledge should be shared, right? Besides, I was curious about how you folks approach engineering problems. As Maya prepared to depart, Corlan realized that this encounter had changed something fundamental in his understanding of technology and science. The humans didn't just build machines, they built relationships with them. They expected things to break and planned for adaptation rather than perfection. Maya Chen, he said formally, would you be willing to share more of your knowledge with our scientists? This exchange could benefit both our peoples. Maya paused in her preparations and looked at him seriously. Dr. Corlin, I'd love to, but I should warn you, human methods can be pretty disruptive to established thinking. Are you sure your people are ready for that? Corlin thought about the implications. Centuries of consortium science had been built on theoretical perfection and risk avoidance. Human methods could shake the foundations of everything they believed. I believe, he said slowly, that disruption might be exactly what we need. Engineering, the impossible word of the human encounter, spread through the consortium research fleet like wildfire. Within days, Dr. Corlin found his laboratory flooded with requests from scientists across dozens of worlds. Everyone wanted to study the impossible human engineering methods that seemed to violate established principles of physics and safety. Maya had agreed to remain with the consortium fleet for 2 weeks, sharing her knowledge in exchange for access to their research databases. What started as a simple cultural exchange quickly became something much larger and more controversial. The human's approach is fundamentally reckless, declared Dr. Morton Kellex during the Emergency Scientific Council meeting. The elderly researcher's reputation was built on precise calculations and fail-safe systems. She advocates for accepting failure as inevitable. This goes against everything we've learned about proper engineering. Corlin activated the holographic display showing Maya's improvised repairs to her drive system. Even after 5 days of study, consortium scientists couldn't fully explain how her modifications worked. Dr. Kellex, her reckless methods restored full functionality to a damaged faster-than-light drive using scrap materials. Our most advanced repair facilities would have required months to achieve the same result. Luck, scoffed Dr. Hellerine Voss from her position at the council table. Humans appear to stumble through problems without understanding the underlying principles. Eventually, such methods will lead to catastrophe. Thrin, who had been quietly observing the debate, finally spoke up. With respect, Dr. Voss, I've been working directly with Maya for the past week. She understands the principles better than any of us. She just applies them differently. The young scientist activated her own display, showing side-by-side comparisons of consortium and human engineering approaches. Look at this power coupling design. Our version is theoretically perfect, requires 17 different exotic materials, and takes 3 months to manufacture. Maya's version uses common metals, can be built in an afternoon, and actually performs better under stress conditions. Dr. Kellex leaned forward, his forearms crossed skeptically. Better how? It adapts, Thrin explained. When components begin to fail, the system automatically redistributes load and continues operating. Our perfect design has no such flexibility. When it fails completely. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For centuries, consortium engineering had focused on creating flawless systems that operated within precise parameters. The idea that imperfect, adaptable systems might be superior challenged everything they believed. Meanwhile, in Laboratory Section 7, Maya was demonstrating another impossibility to a group of fascinated researchers. She had been asked to examine a malfunctioning gravity generator that had puzzled consortium engineers for weeks. The problem is right here, Maya said, pointing to a component deep within the device. This regulator is calibrated too precisely. When the system experiences normal fluctuations, it can't adjust properly. Dr. Yendel Therisk, the laboratory's senior engineer, shook his head. Impossible. That regulator was calibrated to within 0.0001% tolerance. Such precision should prevent fluctuations, not cause them. Maya smiled and pulled out a simple tool that looked like it had been made from spare parts. In human engineering, we learned that too much precision can be just as dangerous as too little. Watch this. She made a slight adjustment to the regulator, deliberately introducing what the consortium would consider an error in calibration. Immediately, the gravity generator's fluctuations smoothed out and its efficiency increased by 12%. But why does this work? Asked Dr. Therisk, staring at his instruments in disbelief. Because the universe isn't precise, Maya explained. Quantum fluctuations, thermal variations, electromagnetic interference, all of these things affect how systems actually operate. If you design for perfect conditions that don't exist, your system will always be fighting reality instead of working with it. She activated a portable display showing human engineering principles. We call this graceful degradation. Instead of trying to prevent all possible failures, we design systems that continue working even when things go wrong. Young researcher Kiran Alvex raised her hand. But how do you calculate acceptable failure rates? How do you model such complexity? Maya laughed, not mockingly but with genuine amusement. You don't calculate it. You build it, test it, break it, fix it, and repeat until it works. Then you break it some more to see what else might go wrong. The consortium scientists looked horrified. Their entire approach to engineering was based on mathematical modeling and theoretical analysis before any construction began. The idea of deliberately breaking things seemed wasteful and dangerous. Isn't this incredibly inefficient? Asked Dr. Therisk. In the short term, yes, Maya admitted. But in the long term, it's much more efficient. We spend less time designing perfect systems that don't work in the real world, and more time building adaptable systems that keep working no matter what happens. Over the following days, Maya continued to challenge consortium assumptions about technology and science. When asked to examine their quantum communication array, she improved its range by 30% using what she called intentional randomness in the signal processing. Your array is trying too hard to maintain perfect coherence, she explained to the communications team. By allowing controlled quantum decoherence at specific intervals, the system becomes more robust and can handle much larger data streams. Dr. Nalara Zinth, the array's designer, watched in amazement as her life's work was casually improved by an alien engineer using principles that shouldn't work. This violates quantum information theory, she said weakly. No, Maya corrected gently. It violates your interpretation of quantum information theory. The universe is a lot weirder and more flexible than most people give it credit for. As news of these improvements spread, the scientific community began to divide into two camps. Traditional researchers, like Dr. Kellix, insisted that human methods were dangerous shortcuts that would eventually lead to disaster. Progressive scientists like Thrin argued that consortium science had become stagnant and needed new approaches. The debate reached a crescendo when Maya was asked to address the full scientific assembly. Thousands of researchers gathered in the great amphitheater of the research station, eager to hear from the human who had turned their understanding of engineering upside down. Honored scientists, Maya began, standing calmly before the massive audience. I've spent 2 weeks with your people, and I'm amazed by your knowledge and dedication. You've achieved things that humanity can only dream of. But I think you've forgotten something important. She activated a display showing images from human history, failed experiments, collapsed bridges, exploded rockets, and crashed spacecraft. This is how humans learn, she said. Every failure teaches us something new. Every mistake shows us a better way. We don't see failure as something to avoid at all costs. We see it as the price of innovation. Dr. Kellix stood up in the audience. And how many lives have been lost to this reckless approach? Maya nodded respectfully. Many lives have been lost, Dr. Kellix, but many more lives have been saved by the innovations that came from those failures. When we learned that our early spacecraft were too fragile, we developed better life support systems that now protect millions of space travelers. When our first fusion reactors failed catastrophically, we learned to build safer ones that now power our entire civilization. She paused, looking around the amphitheater. The question isn't whether you should take risks. The question is whether you should take smart risks that lead to progress, or play it so safe that you never advance at all. Young scientist Thrin stood up from her seat. Maya, what would you say to researchers who are afraid of changing established methods? I'd say that fear is natural and healthy, Maya replied. But remember that every established method was once a crazy new idea that challenged the old ways. Your ancestors took risks to build the civilization you have today. Maybe it's time for you to take some risks to build the civilization your descendants will have tomorrow. As Maya concluded her address, the amphitheater erupted in debate. Some scientists were horrified by her suggestions, while others were inspired by the possibilities. But everyone agreed on one thing: the human engineer had changed the way they thought about science and technology forever. Dr. Corlan watched from the viewing gallery as his colleagues argued passionately about the future of consortium research. The old certainties were crumbling, replaced by new questions and possibilities. It was chaotic and uncomfortable and absolutely necessary. The age of safe, predictable science was ending. The age of human-inspired innovation was about to begin. The Great Awakening. 3 months after Maya's departure, the Stellar Research Consortium was in chaos. What had started as a simple first contact encounter had evolved into the greatest scientific revolution in their recorded history. Research stations across the galaxy were divided between traditional scientists who demanded a return to established methods and revolutionary researchers who embraced human-inspired approaches. Dr. Corlan stood before the Grand Science Council, the highest authority in consortium research, defending decisions that had changed everything. The ornate chamber on the capital world of Nexus Prime had witnessed centuries of careful, incremental scientific progress. Today, it would determine whether that tradition would continue or be swept away by human innovation. Dr. Corlan, intoned Council Chair Velethan Moore, her ancient voice carrying the weight of authority, your report indicates that 17 research teams have adopted human engineering methods, with varying degrees of success. However, we have also received reports of 14 major accidents and 3 facility evacuations. Explain. Corlan activated his presentation display, showing data from research stations across consortium space. Honored Council Chair, the accidents occurred during the learning phase as our scientists adapted to human methodologies. However, the innovations achieved far outweigh the temporary setbacks. The display changed to show breakthrough technologies, faster-than-light communicators with 10 times the range of previous models, fusion reactors that were both more powerful and safer than existing designs, and medical devices that adapted to individual patient needs. All of these advances came from adopting human principles of iterative design and controlled failure, Corlin continued. Our scientists learned to build, test, fail, and improve rather than spending years on theoretical calculations that often proved inadequate in practice. Council member Draston Vell, representing the traditional scientific establishment, rose from his seat. Dr. Corlan, these methods have resulted in chaos. Young researchers are abandoning proven techniques in favor of dangerous experimentation. The integrity of consortium science is at stake. From the gallery, Dr. Thrin Valdis stood up. Though still young by consortium standards, her work with human methods had earned her recognition as one of the brightest researchers of her generation. Council members, may I address this concern? Council Chair Moore nodded permission and Thrin approached the speaking platform. Honored Council, I have spent 6 months working directly with human-inspired methods. Yes, there have been failures, but those failures taught us more about engineering principles than decades of theoretical study. She activated her own display, showing a detailed analysis of research productivity across the consortium. Before human contact, our rate of technological advancement had slowed to near stagnation. We were refining existing knowledge rather than discovering new possibilities. In just 3 months since adopting human methods, we have achieved more breakthrough innovations than in the previous 30 years. The data was undeniable. Research teams using human approaches had dramatically higher rates of discovery, even accounting for their increased failure rates. More importantly, their innovations were practical and robust, solving real problems rather than theoretical exercises. Council member Yarix Helton spoke from his position at the high table. Dr. Valdis, these human methods seem to prioritize speed over safety. Are we not risking catastrophic failure for the sake of rapid progress? With respect, Council member Helton, Thrin replied, human methods actually prioritize safety through redundancy and adaptability. Traditional consortium engineering creates systems that work perfectly under ideal conditions but fail catastrophically when those conditions change. Human engineering creates systems that continue working even when multiple components fail. To demonstrate her point, Thrin activated a live feed from her laboratory. 2 identical manufacturing systems were running side by side, one built using traditional consortium methods, the other using human-inspired design. Watch what happens when I introduce a power fluctuation, she said, manually disrupting the energy supply to both systems. The traditional system immediately shut down completely, requiring manual restart and component replacement. The human design system briefly reduced output, automatically rerouted power through backup channels, and continued operating at 90% efficiency. The human system didn't fail gracefully, Thrin explained. It adapted successfully. The demonstration sent murmurs through the council chamber. For centuries, consortium scientists had believed that preventing failure was the highest goal of engineering. The idea that planning for failure could actually improve safety and reliability challenged fundamental assumptions. Council Chair Moore leaned forward in her seat. Dr. Valdis, if human methods are so superior, why have we not discovered them ourselves? Thrin paused, considering her answer carefully. I believe it's because we became too successful at eliminating risk. Over time, we stopped learning from failure because we worked so hard to prevent it. Humans never had that luxury. Their harsh evolutionary environment forced them to keep adapting and innovating. From the back of the chamber, a familiar voice called out, "May I add something to this discussion?" Every head turned as Maya Chen walked down the aisle toward the speaking platform. The human engineer wore simple traveling clothes and carried a worn equipment case. She had returned from Earth specifically to address the consortium crisis. Maya Chen, Council Chair Moore said with surprise. We were not expecting your return. Dr. Corlan sent me reports about what's been happening here, Maya replied with a smile. It sounded like you folks could use some help sorting things out. She approached the speaking platform as Thrin stepped aside. Honored council members, I've been watching the debates about human methods with great interest, but I think there's been a misunderstanding about what we're really offering. Maya activated the display system, showing images of human development over thousands of years. Humans didn't develop our engineering philosophy because we're naturally reckless or because we enjoy taking risks. We developed it because we had to. The images showed human history, civilizations that rose and fell, technologies that succeeded and failed, countless generations of trial and error that gradually accumulated knowledge. Every human innovation is built on the foundation of previous failures, Maya continued. We learned to make fire by trying thousands of combinations of materials and techniques. We learned to fly by crashing hundreds of prototype aircraft. We learned to reach the stars by accepting that some missions would fail and some explorers would be lost. She paused, looking directly at the council members. The difference between human methods and consortium methods isn't that we're more willing to take risks. It's that we're more willing to learn from our mistakes instead of being paralyzed by them. Council member Vell stood up again. But surely there must be limits to acceptable risk. Some failures are too catastrophic to permit. Absolutely, Maya agreed. That's why we test dangerous systems in safe environments and build multiple backup plans. The goal isn't to court disaster, it's to learn safely from controlled failures so we can prevent uncontrolled ones. She activated another display showing human safety protocols and testing procedures. When we design a new spacecraft, we deliberately try to break it in every way we can imagine. We simulate catastrophic failures, extreme conditions, and equipment malfunctions. By the time the spacecraft is actually built, we know exactly how it will fail and how to prevent or survive those failures. The council chamber was quiet as the implications sank in. Human methods weren't about accepting dangerous risks. They were about understanding and managing risk through systematic experimentation. Dr. Corland stepped forward. Council members, I propose that we establish a formal partnership with human engineers, not to abandon our own traditions, but to enhance them with new approaches to learning and innovation. What form would such a partnership take? Asked Council Chair Moore. Maya smiled. We could start with exchange programs. Human engineers could work with consortium scientists to share our methods, while your people could teach us your theoretical frameworks. Both species would benefit from combining practical experience with advanced theory. Young researcher Kieran Alvek stood up in the gallery. Maya, would humans be willing to establish permanent research stations in consortium space? I think Earth would be very interested in that possibility, Maya replied. We could create joint research facilities where both species work together on common challenges. Climate management, disease treatment, energy production, space exploration. There are so many areas where we could help each other. Council member Helton leaned back in his chair, considering the proposal. The potential benefits are clear, but the cultural implications are enormous. Human methods would fundamentally change how we approach science and technology. Yes, they would, Dr. Corland said firmly. And that change is exactly what we need. For too long, we have prioritized perfection over progress. Human methods can teach us to embrace imperfection as a path to innovation. Thrin stepped forward again. Council members, I have a proposal. Let us establish a trial program with voluntary participation. Research teams that wish to explore human methods can do so in designated facilities with appropriate safety measures. Teams that prefer traditional approaches can continue their work unchanged. After 1 year, we can evaluate the results and decide our future course. The proposal sparked intense debate among the council members. Some argued that even limited adoption of human methods was too dangerous. Others insisted that failure to embrace innovation would doom the consortium to stagnation. Finally, Council Chair Moore called for order. We will vote on Dr. Valdis's proposal. All in favor of establishing voluntary human method research programs? Slowly, hands began to rise throughout the chamber. When the count was complete, the vote was overwhelmingly in favor. The motion passes, Council Chair Moore announced. Dr. Corland, you will oversee the implementation of these programs. Dr. Valdis, you will serve as liaison with human researchers. Maya Chen, we would be honored if you would consider serving as chief advisor for Human Consortium Scientific Cooperation. Maya bowed formally. I accept with gratitude, Council Chair Moore. As the council session ended and representatives began filing out of the chamber, Maya found herself surrounded by young scientists eager to learn human methods. Their enthusiasm reminded her of her own early days as an engineer, when every problem was a puzzle waiting to be solved. Dr. Corland approached, his expression thoughtful. Maya, do you really believe our two species can learn to work together effectively? Maya looked around at the excited faces of the consortium researchers, then at the advanced technology that surrounded them. Dr. Corlan, humans have always believed that different perspectives make everyone stronger. Your people have achieved incredible theoretical understanding. My people have learned practical adaptation. Together, we might achieve things that neither species could accomplish alone. 6 months later, the first joint human consortium research station was established in the Arcturus system. Scientists from both species worked side by side, combining human innovation with consortium knowledge to tackle challenges that had seemed impossible. The revolution that began with one damaged human ship had grown into a new age of cooperation and discovery. The galaxy would never be the same. As Maya stood on the observation deck of the new research station, watching human and consortium ships arriving with fresh supplies and eager researchers, she smiled. Her grandmother had been right about the universe not caring about theories. It just did what it did, and their job was to pay attention and adapt. The future was going to be very interesting indeed.